Today is an exciting day, my friends, because on this episode of The Successful Stylist Unfoiled, we are talking to my friend and very inspiring and talented person, Georgia Freedman. I have been dying to pick her brain, and I know that a lot of people would have the same interest in her path and everything, so I thought she would be an amazing candidate for this. And she's going to walk us through how she got into hairdressing, and she actually started in a completely different industry. She I don't want to ruin it, but she did nursing. I couldn't keep it in. She started that way, and then through connections with her family got into doing makeup and shoots and stuff, and then really opened her eyes to the potential that she could have in hairdressing. So she's going to walk us through how she started, and then how so quickly she ended up doing all the Instagram influencers and working on all the footy wives and doing the Brownlow and Spring Carnival and, you know, the biggest events that we look at in Australia for hair and fashion and things like that. She was doing very early in her career. She's one of those people that is just naturally very gifted. I always say, usually as a hairdresser, you're better at one than the other, whether it's cutting or styling. You know, normally you have something that you're better at and stick to, whereas Georgia is just one of those people who, like, what can't she do? She can do makeup and hair and color, and she is also now stepped into a management role, which I thought was something quite interesting to talk to. She has worked for that salon and now is managing one of their locations, which is really also interesting. I think for hairdressers, something we touched on was that it's hard to maybe voice to management or to, you know, the company that you're working for that you would like to do more than doing hair, and you don't want it to come off as being disinterested in your role. You just want to do something else as well, and you don't want to maybe bite the hand that feeds you, or it can be a bit of an uncomfortable conversation saying that you would like to be doing more than hair. So Georgia is someone who has made that transition, and she's still working, taking clients, but also managing a team. So I thought she'd have so many things that we could learn about and talk about. So today, enjoy my chat with the one and only Georgia Freedman. Okay. I was really trying not to say all right at the beginning and give myself a different beginning because I can't help it. But today I am talking with my pal, my old colleague, my friend Georgia Freedman.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, thank you so much. You are top of the list. I feel like I'm saying that to everybody, but it's true. Like, I've got so many people that I'm like, oh my God, I just want to pick their brains. And I think that so many people would love to know the behind the scenes Georgia Freedman. So I thought I'd love to have you on.
No, I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you. Well, you're looking gorgeous. Your hair looks beautiful.
Thank you. You too.
Oh, thank you. I was inspired by you. I was like, Georgia has the best.
Yeah, your fro's looking better than mine.
I was like, I hope her curls aren't on today because she's going to show me up. It's just,
you are rocking full Carrie Bradshaw.
Oh my God, that is the ultimate compliment.
I know.
I found this channel in all of my time sitting at home that we have like an unlimited Sex and the City channel, and it just like continually plays unlimited episodes. It is like the best thing that I've discovered. So that's a real compliment to me. Thank you. So let's dive into you. Enough about me.
Let's do it.
I would love to just have a little synopsis maybe from you of like how you got into hair. Was it something you always wanted to do? Not?
Yeah.
How you kind of went about it, and then we'll roll from there.
So I actually began nursing after school, which was a bit left of field. Yeah, I did 2.5 years of a nursing degree.
I forgot.
But yeah, so I did that, but I was always very artsy at school. So I don't actually know why I kind of went into that field as much. Like, I don't know why I didn't just go straight down kind of a more artistic route.
So you didn't think of being a hairdresser like throughout high school or things like that? Hairdressing wasn't a thought that you'd had?
No, it was, but I think I was definitely very much, or it has a bit of a stigma behind it. And I don't think that I had done like enough research about it. Like I didn't know what career opportunities it had rather than just like everyday salon stuff. So
Totally.
yeah, I think that kind of deterred me from even going into it straight away. So yeah, started off doing nursing. And then I actually did a lot of work with my dad for a while as well. And then I did makeup first. So did a makeup course for a little bit, and I did a
While you were
lot of
still doing nursing?
yeah. So did that on the side. So did nursing and makeup both at the same time. So the makeup stuff was really great. I did a course which was great. Learned like even like special effects and stuff, which was pretty cool. But I learnt so much from assisting with a company that does a lot of photo shoots. So I would literally like go on like Bond shoots, and
cool.
I did like an Australian ballet shoot, and I would literally just be there holding, like passing up pins and just being the little
So that was
runaround girl.
through your makeup school?
Yeah, well, it was through my sister. So because I had done the course, I'd met this makeup artist. She said, come and assist me on all this stuff. So yeah, that's what I did. And I did that for 2 years, just assisting on every free day that I had.
Oh my God, that's so cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So because your sister is in like, what do you call it? The TV industry?
Yeah, so she does TV and radio. So
she had like shoots and stuff that she was on that she would kind of get you to come along on as well, and that's kind of how.
Yeah, well, these makeup artists like that I worked along with, they were freelancers as well. So for events and stuff for my sister, they would do a lot for her. So yeah, then I just used to come along and watch my sister get her makeup done all the time. And so used to come along, meet the makeup artists, and then yeah, I was just lucky that a few of them were just really beautiful people and were more than happy to have me on. So yeah, I'm really lucky about that.
So that's what opened your eyes to that world. And then
yeah,
you're like, oh my God, hairdressing's something I thought about, but I didn't know this aspect of hairdressing existed, and being at the ballet and the shoots. And that's when you're like, oh my God, this is something I could do.
Well, I think, and also what I realized is by going along to these shoots, a lot of the makeup artists would tell me, if you have hair skill as well as makeup skill, you're going to get more jobs, because, you know, if you're the pack rather than just one, it makes it more financial benefit for companies to only hire one person rather than having to get two people. So yeah, that's when I really started thinking about, like I always loved hair, but I think I knew that I had a lot more skills that I needed to refine. So I actually started off with a styling course at Bieber.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's not like apprenticeship. You hadn't done any sort of apprenticeship. You just saw that they were putting on a course and you could just go, not being a hairdresser?
Yeah. So they do like it's literally just a styling course. So it's it's really flexible. So you could go like once every 2 weeks or whatever, but I would just go. I didn't know anyone there. The teacher I had, I've forgotten his name, but he was wonderful. He was so nice, and he would just let me just do my stuff, teach me what I needed to know. And yeah, it was really helpful. Just those little tips and tricks that I wouldn't have known. Yeah.
And so then how did it progress from that? Like, did you start just doing hair on these shoots that you'd been going on, where you were going for makeup anyway? And then.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think, where a lot of makeup artists, obviously it's hard having, you know, when you're assisting, you can pass things up to people, but you're not really doing a huge amount. But then once I had this hair skill, like a lot of makeup artists loved having me there, because then I could start prepping the hair and tonging the hair whilst they were doing makeup. So I got so much hands-on work with that, which was great. And then I just kind of realized that, yeah, I loved doing it. I still love doing makeup, but I always loved more hair when I was doing it. So yeah.
What a skill. I remember that from somebody who I used to work with. Her name was Anna, and she used to go, and she still does. She does the same thing, like really big campaigns at home and all of this. And she did makeup, and I was like, oh my God, how the hell can you be so good at hair and at makeup? Like, you know, I'm barely good at anything, and here you are good at all of these things.
No,
and it was.
I think you're definitely. I think there's definitely like a lot of people are more probably more refined in one more than the other.
Yeah. Probably same way it's like color and cut, you know, you're usually better at one than the other.
Better at one
I
than
mean,
the
once
other.
again,
Exactly.
that's your exception again. You're great at both.
No, well, no, I'm still refining. Yeah, that's the thing. But yes, so then after Bieber, I realized like I loved obviously assisting with the company that I was at, but I wanted to still do more. So that's when I decided to do a mature age apprenticeship.
So what does that mean? That just is there something different in the fact that you're a bit older?
Not really, just that the fact that I'm old. That was really the only difference. No, so I started my apprenticeship at
envisioning you walking in with a cane every day, like or in a wheelchair or something. What the hell
literally,
does that mean?
the fact that I was called the fact that I was called a mature age like apprentice, I was like, God, what a title. But yeah, really, it doesn't really mean much more than the fact that I'm a little bit older than the rest of them and started a little bit later.
Okay. And where did you do that apprenticeship?
Yeah, so I began my apprenticeship at Rock Ebony.
Amazing, where you still are.
Yeah, where I still am, exactly. Yeah, so I think it was 2022.
And did you just go in and bring your CV and apply, or like how did you end up in there?
Yeah, I applied for a few places, but Rock Ebony were the quickest to get back to me, and Teresa, who was my manager obviously then, and interviewed me, and on the phone she sounded really like bubbly and friendly, so I was like, okay, I think I can go for an interview with her and be fine. So yeah, I just went for an interview with her, told her what I had done previously. I didn't realize that kind of like little experience even behind an apprenticeship would like tick a lot of boxes. So
yeah, totally. You have that experience, that little bit of extra confidence because you've had touched hair before.
I've touched hair, exactly. That definitely made it easier, just kind of getting in the door. So yeah, kind of I did so kind of say though at the beginning of my apprenticeship that I didn't want to do it in 3 years and that I wanted to like accomplish it within like 2. And she kind of like rolled her eyes at me and was like, yeah, whatever, everyone says that. And I was like, no, I'm going to.
And why did you want to finish it quicker? Like what was that in your head? Why?
I'm a pretty driven person in general. But I think my age, I mean, at the time I was 22, but in my mind I was like I'm behind, like I need to get it done. Yeah. And like knowing that all the other apprentices were like 16, I was like, I really need to get ahead.
But I think it's actually something that is probably quite an advantage that you've gone in when you are more mature, when you've done a career path that you don't want to do, because when you come in at 16, you're still dicking around no matter how much you want to be a hairdresser or not. And you're like, oh, I love hair. Like, it's still a bit of a joke.
You still want to party and like, I'd already done that.
Who the fuck picks their career at that age? And if anybody, you think anybody who's gone to uni, most people take a gap year. So that's 18. And then they do a 4-year minimum kind of degree, which is at the same point, you know, like you're not behind. It's just different. And you feel that pressure. So how were you able to fast track? Like, what did you have to do to finish earlier? Is that something that anybody can do, or?
Yeah, no. Well, look, like if you're determined enough, you can do it. I think anyone can do it if they really want to. I was lucky that I did have the support of my manager, Teresa, at the time. She obviously knew that that's what I wanted to achieve. So she was very very encouraging of it. Yeah, cool. She was really good. So so I ended up going to school twice a week. So I'd go on my RDO. So I did that for 2 years and just kind of worked 6 days. So yeah, it was tiring, but so worth it in the end. Like I ended up getting so much done within 2 years and then qualifying. So that was good. Yeah. So yeah, did that. I also was still like not sure if I really wanted to work for my dad at the same time as hair as well.
And so what would you be doing if you were working for your dad? Is he a hairdresser?
No, my dad's a horse trainer, so it's a completely different field.
So that was something that you were still thinking about wanting to be in that world. What would you be doing in that world?
I mean, like even when I was doing my apprenticeship, I would still work for my dad in the mornings. So I would go to Flemington Racecourse at 3 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, it was horrendous hours. So I'd get up, do track work with the horses, and then I would finish at around like 9 o'clock, and then I would go straight to work after that, and sometimes work a 12-hour shift. So I don't know how I didn't burn myself
These
out
are the
for 2
things
years.
that I love sharing, that people don't realize behind the scenes how much time, or the fact that you have a second job to pay through your apprenticeship or whatever. People don't realize that you don't just do hair, you know? Like, I think that's so cool.
Exactly. And I think like I was in a mature age. I was living out of home. Like, and look, you don't earn the huge amount, but doing an apprenticeship. So obviously I was like, I need to pay rent and etc. So yeah, I was like, I'll go work for dad, and loved it as well. And obviously it's spring racing. So I love that element of it, even just being around the horses and stuff. So it was really, really, really good.
How cool.
Really good.
Love it. And then so when you finished your apprenticeship, were you like, because I know that you were quite known for doing your hair ups and, you know, these kind of maybe Brownlow or Spring Carnival. Like, some of the times I don't remember what the stuff's called because it's not something I've grown up in. Like, I'm not Nazi. I'm like, what the hell are these things called? Or what's this person's name? Like, people who are like, you know, celebs or Insta people here. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know who they are.
I mean,
I think that that's something that you've become quite well known for. And like, is that where you wanted to go with it always? Or how did that kind of happen?
Well, from the beginning, like even when I was like younger, watching like my mom and my sister like dress up for the races and like with their hair and makeup, that's instantly, I had an attraction to that. So like I loved hairstyling. So naturally in my apprenticeship, I loved that too. Like, and I was lucky in a sense that I had a pretty quick skill with it. And obviously not a lot of
naturally to you doing hair ups and stuff.
So obviously like the coloring and cutting, it wasn't like, I'd never been taught that, so I had no idea about it, but I have watched hair stuff so often growing up that I just gravitated to it quite quickly. But so my sister was so great. She just kind of like was in her biggest kind of TV scene. And I remember one Spring Carnival, she was like, do you want to do my hair? And I was so nervous. And it's like my sister. I was so nervous.
I think that we get more anxious when it's somebody that we know. I get like 100%. That even with color, because you have to see them again. If you stuff it up and it's a client, 100%. Like, you still care. Like, of course we still care. But when it's somebody that you know, you're going to have to look at those photos, because
not even she was going to yell at me. She could yell at me being like, what have you done? So I was petrified, but I was like, this is my chance. Like, this is my chance to kind of show that I can do it. So I remember, I did it that 1 year and loved it. And she was obviously really supportive and great with it. So, and from then on, I remember in my first year at Rock, they were running low on stylists. It was one Saturday, and there was someone who walked in saying that they had booked a hair up, and I don't know what happened, but miscommunication, the appointment wasn't there, and this person wanted a hair up, and
Saturday, nightmare.
100%. So I was just like, I'm going to do it. Give it to me. And my like teachers at the time, well, my bosses were like, no, you're a first, you're not touching hair, you sweet.
You just started last week.
But then anyway, they were like, all right, threw me in the deep end, and happy. And then from then on, they let me do them. So, and that's where it began. They realized
I think that's a huge takeaway that from people I've been talking with, and that if it's that one moment where you say yes when somebody else would say no, that defines that makes the difference of, you know, Jess saying, oh, I'll cut the bob when, you know, she's not technically qualified to cut short hair. And she's like, I'll do it. And then now you get short hair all the time, or you agree to do this hair up that what's the worst that can happen? Like,
absolutely.
You just have to redo it, and somebody else was going to have to do it anyway.
Exactly. So I got really lucky. I ended up in my, like, you know, throughout my apprenticeship, I built up quite a big hair up clientele. Which was fun because, like, you know, as an apprentice, like, you want to start, you know, getting hands-on and having clients, and by having that hair up clientele, I was able to, and I would be booked. So that was
even though you
a
were still an
great way for
apprentice,
me to
you were
start it.
doing that. That's so cool.
Yeah. So it was
And
a
I
great
think
way
it's
for me to
quite
start everything.
important to, at the beginning, to start doing hair like that. Otherwise, you get so far in and you've spent so much time shampooing and doing toners and cleaning, which is important, and you need those foundations and all of
Absolutely.
this
And you
stuff.
need the
But
discipline
once it gets stretched for so long, you almost get this fear to touch hair again, or like to,
yeah.
I don't know how to do it. Whereas when you're thrown in right at the beginning, you're new and you don't know any better a bit, that
Exactly.
you're
And
not
I
as
knew that, like,
afraid.
in the end, if you were going to stuff something up, which is, it doesn't really happen a lot, I don't think. If you're putting your hand up for something, like, it's unlikely that you're really going to fall.
Yeah.
But in the back of your mind, that there's people there within the salon to help you anyway if you do. So
Yeah, that's
had
about
that in
having
the
a
back
good
of my
team.
mind. Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, that's how I kind of got into it. So then built up a bit of a hair up clientele throughout my apprenticeship, and then I got offered to do like a few big things, like doing a couple of Rock Ebony's ambassadors for Brownlow and like Spring Racing Carnival. Like, I got to do all of them. So, and I still love it to this day. Like, those events are the events that I love doing.
How cool is that? So how did you get chosen for that? Is it just because, like, obviously you're amazing, so you got chosen because you were the best at doing hair up, or those people had seen your Instagram or seen your work and then they're asking for you, or did you just say, I want to do it? Like, how did that kind of happen that it ended up being you that was doing it versus
I think I think at the time my managers were had seen my work and were obviously really happy and confident with it. And so they would then, pass on the ambassadors to me, just like for even just like smaller things, like on a Saturday or whatever. I built up a bit of a rapport with them, and it was like from then they were happy to have me. So that was kind of really nice.
So
And
cool.
I guess from a business perspective too, it took the load off, like, our cutters and our colorists at the time, because I was available to do all that work. So
Because you didn't have a column at the time, you were still an apprentice.
I was still an apprentice. So
I
I just
didn't
was
thought of
like,
that. It's great business. Yep.
yeah, so it was good for the business as well. And good for my confidence moving into other areas of hairdressing as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, still to this day, like, it's still my favorite area to do, is like that styling for like events, and I love it.
And so you were saying you've done Brownlow as well. So you get to go, do they come to the salon and do that, or do you go to them? Like, how does it kind of work, and times a day? I know you do early mornings. Like, walk us through
well,
that.
Spring Carnival's early. So Spring Carnival, it changes year to year, but most of the time, like, the girls are coming into the salon kind of like 6 a.m.
Oh my God.
And
are you a
usually,
morning
especially
person?
like on Melbourne Cup, like, it's yeah, I am, so that's fine. And that came with from working at the stables, so that was fine. But yeah, Brownlow, you actually go to Crown. So yeah, you'd have like I have like 2 girls that are ambassadors with Rock, who usually go to the Brownlow, and I'd kind of just do one straight after the other at Crown. So, and it's such a buzz there when you're doing hair, like, especially like some of the girls are in like a room amongst all these other wags.
Yeah.
And so it's really fun just watching what all the girls are wearing, and so many different makeup artists and stuff. It's a great way to meet people as well. And
that's what I love
it's
about
really
those
fun.
things, is the networking and the buzz. Like, there's nothing like being at a shoot or at a hair comp or at something, and everybody who's there is hair, makeup, something, that is
such a production.
Yeah,
and there's
it's
like
so cool.
Stylists, there's photographers, it's such a production. But I love the buzz, like that. It's like so much adrenaline on that day, and then I get home and I'm like,
so tired.
Don't talk to me.
And do you go by yourself?
But it's a lot of fun. It's great work.
Like, do you go to Crown on your own, or you have a team, or you go, like, what happens with that?
No, I thought the first year I did it, I went by myself, and again, I was so nervous, even though I'd worked with these girls like so many times before. It's such it's a day that, like, really I guess there's a bit of a build up to it, because they're going to be on TV and they're going to be seen, and it's obviously for the girls, like they're so critiqued on just what they look like for that one runway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely was like a little bit nervous, went by myself, was fine in the end. And then the following year I actually, took an assistant just to see that, because I think also like it's nice to bring someone along who has seen that before.
Yeah, totally.
They get excited by it too. So for them, yeah,
you're exposing them to this world and showing them the potential that you don't know that certain elements of the industry exist until you see it. So it's nice to be able to pass that
and I
on.
had no idea that I was going to be able to get to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's so
like
awesome.
I thought it was just going to be cutting and coloring and that's it. Yeah, so it opened up another door for me, which was good.
Yeah, I find that so interesting. And then you've also done some speaking, like at some events, like I've seen you at open mic and things like that. Like, how did you get into doing those types of things?
I was lucky enough I can't even remember what year it was now. But I won Apprentice of the Year for AHFA.
How could I forget?
Yeah, so that was probably one of my biggest highlights in my apprenticeship. But that definitely, I didn't realize that it got me involved in more speaking opportunities. So like I did an open mic night with quite a few speakers, and that was really fun. It was me and one other apprentice with these like obviously really well-known Victorian hairdressers. So that was really fun. It was really great. I thought I would like freeze on stage, and I realized I actually don't mind talking in front of people.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like a family trait or something, but I always get like nervous for that, and then I feel like I'm fine. So no, that was great. Open mic night was really, really good.
And you are saying you got those opportunities because you won and it put your name out there. People saw your collection and then they were asking you to speak about that. That's so cool.
Yeah. And I think, I guess my collection had a few elements in it that was maybe like different at the time. Like it had a lot of styling elements in it. And I think maybe that made it
stood out. It's an incredible collection.
Well, I think it was like, it was a talking point. I think people were able to recognize it, that I was able to talk about why I did that rather than.
And that you actually did it, you know, like sometimes like things like that, there's a lot of hands on deck and you know, can fully back yourself in that element, which I think is really important. That it's amazing, you know, to have people helping you in this and that, but you actually need to be able to execute that look yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, like behind a collection though, it takes an army, and it's not like even like obviously just like photographers, models, like everything. But again, like those shoot days, just like that's so much work, and obviously most hairdressers would know that, but it's so rewarding, even if you don't enter it into something, or if you don't.
And do you do a lot of prep? Like I think when I look at, say I'm looking at your collection and I'm like, oh my God, amazing. I would never think of this water dripping glue situation or whatever. Like I don't have those thoughts in my head that I'm like, oh, look at Charlotte. Oh yeah, she would look great with fire coming out the back of her head. Like, how the hell do you think of this stuff?
I don't know. Okay, well, for me, most of my collections start with something that I've seen, or it could have been like nature, or it could be like just a texture or something. Like it's not anything in particular, but it starts from there. And then once I kind of do research on, like I'll try and separate into 6 different things. So, or 4 or whatever, depending how many images. So for instance, like my first ever collection was based on like Moroccan textures, which is so weird, like just fine detail. So I chose like 6 different textures and different
and you going on Pinterest and searching Moroccan fabric and then like saving the photos that you like and then going from there? Like how are you starting that vision?
I mean, or I might even like see a texture and then like do more research upon that like Moroccan kind of a feel. So just to see if like it aligns or anything. So yeah, the pathways actually, sometimes I don't even understand my own brain. Yeah, that's how it all begins. And then once I figured out the kind of textures that I want, then it's about creating that texture. So I try and work out whether it's like, do I use hair? Do I use something to intertwine it with hair, or do I cut it, or do I color it? Like, I kind of go down that path first to kind of see if that's the way to get the texture to come across the best way. So yeah, that's kind of my thought process amongst most of my photo shoots. And then once I realize what I want to use or what I want to do, then I start trialing. Cool. But yeah, like in my house is like one big craft box. It's got like so much crap
You seriously are. I remember you came into the back room one day when we were working in Turak, and you had all these like fluff balls, like what yeah. Not like what's behind me, but it was like pussy willows or something. I was like, Georgia, what the hell are you doing? One, you're gonna give me an allergic reaction, get all this like fluffy grass out of here, and two, what are you doing? And you're like, I'm just thinking if I put these balls on the head like this, and I was like, what?
Oh my god, yeah! And you
how do you think of this? And you just had this amazing, and it was incredible. And as soon as you say it and then do it, I'm like, oh. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, like, amazing.
When you're walking in with sticks from Spotlight or from the woods, I'm like, what are you doing?
Honestly, or like, and you should say, like, half the time before shoots, like, I've got this little shed out the back of my house, and I literally just lay a tarp down and just like go nuts on it. And like, that's where like on one of my collections, I did like a water, and I was like, how do I put it there without like, because when you're photographing, like you can't actually just like put water, like that's not going to work. It won't stay there. So
do you go like on, I'm just thinking like what I would do. And I'm like, I feel like I would go on Pinterest and search like water hair. And then I'd be like, or like, I like Google how to create fake water. Like, is that kind of what you do? And then it snowballs in, or you actually am like, oh, if I just did this.
No, like for instance, like with water, like I don't necessarily put like my search in with hair. So I don't go water hair and then hopefully something comes up. I do more kind of, over here. You might just like say Pinterest like water, and then you kind of just like look at images that show like movement of water. So as soon as I see like water like dropping, I know that that's kind of the position of what it needs to look like to make it look like water. So so once like I knew that's what it needed to do, then I bought resin, and it's all made out of resin, so it's actually like a plastic that sets. So I was like chucking it on the tarp, like kind of, so it looked like drops, and like literally the whole floor was like resin. And I was just like to my boyfriend, I was like, do not walk in there, like you're gonna ruin it, just leave it.
They get the short end of the stick. Poor Cullen's been out in the living room, and I'm like, no speaking. You can't use the Wi-Fi. Do not make noise.
Like I need to show you. I need to show you a photo, and he will kill me for showing you this. But there was this one collection where I made this wig, and I couldn't just buy one because I needed it to look a certain way. So I was like, stuff it, I'll just make it. So I was making it and had like little gold, like little flickers in it. And I was like, oh, because when you're making it, like I had a mannequin head, but it's not the size of like a real head. And I was like, I need to make sure it fit my model. And so I used Ben as my model, and he
who has the most luscious, gorgeous hair for anybody who
I know he's got the best hair. But I remember like these photos, like I was taking photos of him with it on, and I was like, oh god, that needs to come off. Like you just look absolutely ridiculous with this on.
And did you make the wig from scratch, like through pieces, or you buy a wig and then edit it? Like,
well, no.
I've been in the tech brain for a little too long.
It's the whole idea with a photo shoot is that you don't want to create more work. Like, and plus it takes like, that's not your own work if you're editing and duplicating stuff. Like I know that some people think that really edited photos is like modern and like the thing to do, but to me it's like a bit of a not a cheap way, but it's like a bit of a, I don't know, I don't think it's authentic. You know? I think
like when it's done on Photoshop more so, like that
like that. That actually drives me a little bit crazy. I don't like that. I don't like that people over edit and over Photoshop their photos. I don't think it reflects what they could do or what they did do there and then.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean? Like, I feel like
it takes away from the people who are building wigs in their backyard on their boyfriend.
Yeah, exactly. And like, well, like that's not to say like, you know, obviously everyone give photo shoots a go. If it's not coming out the way you want, then obviously you're going to go towards more editing techniques. But I think it just takes away the authenticity of it. And it just, I think I think you get more respect from especially people within the industry if you don't do that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I just
think it's really cool you explaining that the way you come up with it. I think a lot of people think hair as the first thing, and you're thinking texture or what element or what kind of color scheme, and then it plays into that. Like, I think a lot of, like, for me in particular, like, I don't have that initial thought about when I look at someone's hair and I'm like, oh my God, what if I did this? Like, that just doesn't come to me. But it's cool to break it down and realize that you have to start from a different kind of element and it evolves into it.
Yeah, and like not even just textures. I get a lot of inspo from previous shoots of people, and but I think what one thing that was always drilled into my head is do something that someone hasn't seen before.
Yeah.
Or if you have seen it, change it so it's not the same. Because you never want to do the same work as someone else. It's not, if it's been seen, it's been seen. You're not going to win with that.
Yeah. Which I think is hard and what can put people off doing it, because even, I don't know, my brain's in this project right now for me, right? But I was like, I need to look up and see if anybody else has done this before, or this subject. And it's like, no matter what, somebody's always going to have done something. I'm not reinventing podcasting, and you're not reinventing hair, but it's about making it your own and authentic and what you genuinely like. Like, if you like what you're creating.
Yeah, exactly right. I couldn't agree more.
I think it's quite hard to come up with something totally unique. And I mean, you do that, but I think for a lot of people that is quite challenging to be like, well, how am I going to come up with something that nobody's done before? But it's about spinning it in a different way and shooting it in a different light or a different wardrobe or a different color palette or something like that, right?
So here I have this photo. I have to show you it because it's just so fun. Obviously. So this is my like craft table. So I began making a wig, right?
Oh my God. And what is that, extensions? Or like,
oh yeah, I was the girl that would be like, do you need this? Okay, great. And just have this bag of like weird hair.
like from clients' heads.
Yeah, I've still got it. It seriously helps when you're trying to create this stuff because you just don't have
God,
hair.
I love this. You have to send me these photos so I can like link them in too. Show me.
Absolutely. More. And then this is me putting it on Ben, forcing it.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, he'll hate that I showed that.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I was like, that's the only way I'm going to get it right.
And so what was that? It was like brown hair, and then what's the gold things in it?
It's ribbon. I just chopped it up.
Like cut the ribbon to be rough kind of, and then stuck it in with the hair.
Yeah, I just kind of interweaved it.
Much more complicated than that.
No, it's all, I wanted it to, because I knew in person, it can look a bit weird, but when it photographs, usually if you use something like gold, it's more like it just a little flicker in the hair.
Do you just learn that through experience? Like, to me, I'm like, you're just like, I just have to make this wig and it's going to look like this. Like, how do you know how to even start that process?
I think that's from experience of even just assisting on shoots. So I think a lot of people get these big grand ideas and think that it's going to look great on camera, and then they get in front of the camera and they're like, why isn't it doing what I want? I think that all comes with experience, and I'm still learning to this day. There's still been some times where I'll get on set and I'll just be like, this isn't right, it's not right, it's not picking up the way I want, it's not picking up. And so I think that's when obviously the biggest thing I've learned is keep doing them over and over and over again, and you get the experience and you get the understanding of how, because it's as much as you can do as a hairdresser, it's about how the camera works and how it photographs.
How do you pick who you work with? Like your photographer and your wardrobe and stuff. Like, do you choose those people, or because you work for a company, they pick them? How does that kind of happen?
I obviously working for a company, they will usually provide the photographer.
Yeah.
However, stylists, makeup artists, models, it's all up to you. So you have to organize. Yeah, even like if you want assistants there on the day, you have to organize them. Yeah, so you organize pretty much everything else. It's pretty like your thing, except for the company provide the photographer, which is
In
great.
your case, yeah. And how
Yeah.
did you find like, did you do the makeup on your shoots? Like, since you do that, or is that something you remove yourself from so you're not overwhelmed with too much and picking a stylist? Like, do you go onto a Facebook group and like find someone, or through your
Yeah.
connections? How does that kind of happen?
I did my I did my own makeup a couple of times, but for a collection of 6, it's way too much work. You like the
Yeah,
timing
I
just doesn't
imagine.
work.
Yeah.
I can't do, because usually if you've got 6 models, you need to make sure that the timing is that one can be in makeup, one can be in hair. So I can't do both at the same
Yeah.
time. So it just takes for absolute ever. So yeah, always get a makeup artist on board. And there's like a couple of girls within the company that do makeup. So that's great because it gives them experience. They get
Yeah.
some work as well. So I usually kind of lead towards that. And stylists, I was lucky enough to use a couple of stylists and also assistant stylists that I'd met from my previous shoot experience from
Yeah.
the company that I used to work for.
Which also goes to show that you just say, not just you, but like the key is to say yes to all these things, because
100%.
maybe you're just going to pass up pins, but you met so and so, and that's how you got on this. Like, I got to go on a shoot with Sharon Blaine recently because I had
You
gone to
did?
something else. Like, yeah, I did.
Amazing.
I don't even do hair ups. Like, what? I was like, are you sure you want me? What the hell am I gonna do? I just go for entertainment factor.
How do you think I feel coming on this like little podcast thing? I'm like, I make wigs out of like random hair on the floor. Are you sure you want me
That's
on the
what
show?
I just feel like I want to explore every little nook and cranny of this industry, and the way that everybody has gotten to those points is different, which is so interesting. But that's a main thing, that just going and being there. Like, I would go help Charlene sometimes and just bring the sandwiches. Like, that's it. And it's just, but at that, got to meet so and so who was doing the photographer. I met the makeup artist. Absolutely. And she's like, oh, you do color, I need someone for this. And that's all that it is. You just go, and that's how you meet people, even if
absolutely, like, even like at the beginning, I was like, oh, I remember being like, didn't really know Charlene that well. I knew who she was. She had no idea who I was, but I would like I'd be like, I want to come help on your shoot, and just like always threw my hand up. And I remember like she didn't really have like a job for me on one of her shoots, but I remember it was going to be amazing. It was like off it was her really good colorful one. Do you remember it?
Anyway, that is in black and white kind of, but the hairs are in colors.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And I remember I was like, yeah, I'll come. And she's like, okay, great, you can be on skin. That was my task, was to make sure the models were like moisturized. I was like, amazing, I'll be there. I was like, perfect, she thought of a job for me. I'm gonna be there.
Funny. But it's true, you just go and you appreciate the person. Like, you can now obviously relate to from doing your own shoots. Like, the more people that are there, I think as being the extra person, you feel like you're a bit in the way maybe or something, but as long as you're just there, and if you're willing to help when someone needs it, that's the main thing. And that's, many hands make light work, right? You need those people 100%. To get the models like, water, or just tidy up as you go. That's the huge thing. Exactly.
Too. And that's the other thing. Like just like, even if you come up to like the, you know, apprentices as well, if you come to a shoot thinking that you've got nothing to do, you're totally wrong. Like, there's going to be, I can give you 10 things to do whilst 100%. I'm doing one person's hair.
And that's exactly right. You're right. That's how you learn. Like, I didn't realize how many pieces are in a photo shoot. Like, or wigs. I'm like, what do you mean that's not her hair? Like, you don't, when you look at an image, you don't realize that that's a wig, and that's the same model 4 times over. Like, what? You know, it's so cool.
Absolutely. And I love that in some photo shoots, like obviously in certain ones like color categories and stuff, you can't use those kinds of things to alter like the color and stuff. But for some of the other ones where you're allowed to use like wigs and just like other stuff, like I love that. I think it's great. I think it's really creative.
So cool. And are you up to, I guess you're not really up to any collections or anything now, eh?
Well, I did have one ready to go, but it got cancelled, unfortunately. So that was annoying. But that's okay. Like, I'll just save it for next year and hopefully do a couple more.
Are you always thinking about hair kind of things? Like when you we had more time off this year than we ever had. Like, were you at home doing hair, or were you like, oh my God, I'm happy to just not be in my shed throwing resin at a tarp and wigs? Or were you, how have you been doing that?
A bit of both. I think this year I've taken on a new role of management. So that has been,
dive into this.
Yeah, so that's been really good. But it's almost like happened at a good time because I've literally just focused my whole energy on kind of getting that career experience. And whilst
whereas
if
you were being put into that when there's shoot opportunities happening, or
I think I'd be like hard to juggle.
You don't want to say no to those opportunities, but also you don't want to half-ass this new role. So that's a really great point. I think that is, you know, everything happens a bit for a reason and perfect timing, and the fact that it's allowed you to just focus on that and you haven't had hair to do.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of been good. Like, I've just focused on that this year. That's kind of been my priority. I obviously still am looking and whatever with hair, but I've almost taken a bit of the bench with that for a little bit. And
was that always something you wanted to do, to get into management? How did this happen for you?
No, like, I've thought about it, but I was actually very surprised that I received the opportunity so early on in my career. I've only been doing hairdressing for 6 years, so to receive that kind of a role, I was pretty chuffed.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's great. I've got a small little team. They're wonderful. And it's been great learning just, I guess, that business side of hairdressing rather than, you know, my wacky creative side that I
do you
already
think
was
that it has
into.
made you appreciate your managers more and the struggle of being a manager? Or to you, you're like, oh, like, I would never do it the way that they did it. I'm so happy that I can do it this way. Like, how has that changed your perspective maybe from being an employee to a manager?
And it is weird. I think I was lucky that I stepped into a management role where I didn't know anyone and they didn't know me. So it wasn't like I was going from like qualified to manager within the same salon. I think that's tough because you've especially because I've gone from an apprentice there. Like, you know, some of the older staff have only seen me as that. So that, I get like, that. viewing you in a more well, I guess you could call it a higher role would be hard for them to kind of be okay with, which I get. It's like, you know, I am a lot younger than the rest of the managers, and I know that I've been very privileged to be given this kind of an opportunity so early on. But yeah, so I was lucky that I did it in a different scene. So I didn't have any kind of like judgment or anything. Like, they just had my face value. So that was great. But yeah, it's been really good. Like, I have definitely taken like positives from a lot of like my higher ups at Rock. But then there's also things that you're going to change just that you think would work better.
I don't like this aspect of this process that is, you know, stresses me out, and change that way. So did you have to learn, this is conversations I was having with people who have opened their own business or their own salons. I'm like, how do you know what booking system, or, you know, you're figuring out people's payroll and things like that. Like, when you're going from being a hairdresser, doing hair for photo shoots, how do you now take on a management role? Like, did they just teach you the systems, and are you finding that challenging, like doing rostering and stuff? Like, what are you responsible for now being a manager?
Yeah, no, I think I'm still learning a lot still now, but I think yeah, like, look, things like rostering, like, we're lucky that we have an accountant at Rock Ebony, so I don't have to do like payroll as such, but we still have to make sure, you know, like the timesheets in so that they do get paid. And you know, orders. Like I still have to do those and still have to work with budgets. So it does give you a bit of an idea exactly how a business runs, which is what
cool.
I was eager for that kind of information because I was the same as you. Like I want to know, you know, because I never know what my future is going to be like later down the track, you know, and it's got, I think every single bit of knowledge that you can gain is only power in like, and keeps you going and keeps you motivated. So that knowledge of like how they run a business, I love that. And I still really like that. But day-to-day stuff, it's more like, I think the biggest change for me was you know, obviously when you're biased, like when you are just more of a stylist or colorist and not in a management position, you're just thinking about yourself, your clients, your column. Whereas like I'm still doing clients every day. So as a manager, I'm having to now tweak my thinking of, yes, I've got my clients in my column, but I also need to make sure I'm keeping an eye on all their columns as well.
Because you are still doing clients. I think that's something that we can appreciate, like maybe with Teresa, you know, in Rock, and it would be like, Teresa would be falling, she'd be like, oh, one sec, come here. And she'd be like, can you go ask Anna to do this and this? And we're like, what are you doing? Like, just do your clients.
I know, and I am that person now.
But you can't.
I'm that person. You don't. Mid foiling, I'm like, can you just make sure that this client in this week is like called, or can you make sure that this order is done?
As the apprentice or as the person who's being called over, you're like, what the fuck? Like,
let's trade them what you're doing
later. But it's in your head and you have to get it out in the moment. So I think that's what I meant by being like, does it make you appreciate the flip side of the coin? Because to us, we'd be like, oh my God, just deal with that later. Like, that's not till June 15th and today is September, you know, whatever. But you need the people around you and a team around you, and that's how you manage. And it would be quite hard to be doing a client and putting all of your brain into that, but then also thinking like, oh shit, I didn't block Kate out tomorrow or whatever, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm constantly thinking, or I'll, like, even in the middle of the night, I'll be like, oh, I didn't do this. Get up.
Like, that's so funny. Like that. I've started taking notes in the middle of the night, which is just ridiculous. But my brain,
for the podcast,
everything. Like when I was like,
love it.
I think this color scheme, or I've never had a little baby like this, or like an idea. Like I've never like come up with something like a curriculum or a photo shoot plan or anything. Like I've just have never had to do that, and I found it really exciting, and it gave me. Yeah, but I literally had like a notepad beside the bed. I still this. I would put the light on and be like, "Oh, write this down," or "This is the bio." I thought of the bio or the introduction at 3 a.m. You know, but then I'm like, if I don't write it down, then I'm not going to remember it tomorrow.
Or you'll spend 3 hours in the middle of the night dwelling on it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Then you can't sleep because
you can't sleep. Yeah, I totally get that. It happens to me all the time.
Good to know it's not just me.
Yeah, but no, it's been a really interesting year. Like I never thought that I'd go like a year without doing as little comps as I have been doing now. But I've learned a lot with management, and I am learning a lot of like, I laugh to myself right now because I can't believe I've entered a new role of management during a pandemic. That's the only thing. Like I'm trying to learn a new role now. I have to try and learn around this. Like what?
Yeah.
So that's been really interesting. But look, everyone's
sometimes
been pretty.
I think it can be a good time to have done some sort of change because you haven't had as much going on. Like I feel like if you would have had your social life still happening, you're racing and all your stuff with your dad, your photo shoots and competitions, changing salon locations and joining a new team, like all of those things still orbiting around you would be quite challenging. Whereas now we've got no social life. We can't go anywhere after 8 o'clock. So you're stuck at home thinking, you know, like there's so many things that I think if I would have been hungover on a Sunday, I wouldn't have done, you know, like, or just, I think it's been nice having that little bit of easing you into it, maybe.
Yeah. And it really has. Like I think like that was their biggest fear, like offering me this job, is that you do too much.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, I can do it. Watch me.
Yeah.
And then it kind of all slowed down for me. So that kind of worked in my favor.
Yeah. Are you missing it though? Like the shoots and stuff? Or do you think that that's something you're going to put on hold for a bit and just embrace management and slow down a bit? Or you can't not do those things?
no, I have liked slowing down for the management thing just so I could learn the ropes. But now that I kind of like know what I'm doing, I miss it. Like I need that creative side just for some stimulation. Like it's the only kind of.
And I think it's quite good to have a leader who still does hair, who has experience in those things, because one, you can guide your team better, but two, it inspires them. Like, to me,
well, that's the thing. I think it's nice to keep them motivated.
Yes,
and if
I
they
agree
see someone
that
else doing something, then
and
I think
I mean,
I'm
obviously
all
we all
about
have
like.
You go.
Yeah, you go.
I was gonna say we all have a point where, you know, we have kids or husbands or whatever, why, like, that it takes you away from doing that. But while you can do it, and you know, you're not gonna have a manager who forever is in this world, but for them to have seen you participating in it, and the fact that you also have gone from doing hair to being in management, and it's attainable, and if that's something that you want to do, you don't have to be doing just hair all the time. Like, a lot of us, I think, have other ambitions or curious about different aspects of the industry that aren't doing hair, and you feel a bit like, oh, I don't know if I can voice that. Like, you don't want your boss to think that you don't want to be a hairdresser anymore, so you
I think
back.
there's definitely a bit of a nervousness that I think people think that you know what to say in front of their bosses or whatever. I don't know. I think I was lucky in the sense that my bosses, they pointed out exactly what I already kind of knew, is that I do put a lot on my plate and I do it to myself. But I'm that kind of person that loves keeping busy. So, I mean, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But so far it has. So, but that it's all coming back to that thing. I just had to give it a go. It seems a bit silly to pass up an opportunity to learn something different.
Love that. I think that's the difference of the people who make it and who stand on the sidelines watching, wishing that they did. You know, you just do it, and if it fails, then you have this skill. You're actually a really good hairdresser, so you know, can do that if you want, or you know, it's not the be all end all. And that's something that I've learned from these conversations too, is a lot of people who have made it now not failed, but their first photo shoot didn't make it in, and their first application to work for an education team, they didn't get accepted. And you know, you just have to push through it. And
Absolutely.
It's not as easy. Everybody sees you now at your peak, being like, oh my God, she does this celebrity hair and she's so good. She's just naturally good. And it's like, no,
it's
you
so
are
funny
naturally
because
good.
Still, like, in my mind, I'm like, I've got so much to learn. There's still so many people that I look at and I'm like, you've done so much. And like, I still think like that. I still think like,
we all do.
I'm only so far. Like you still want to strive for more. So,
and don't you want to ask them how? Like how
all the time?
I know. That's what
I feel like I want to be that person that like goes into someone's Instagram messenger and just be like, hello,
that's me. That's actually me. If anybody has me on Instagram, they're definitely 100% guaranteed that I've sent you a DM, because I am a DM freak.
No, but that's why you're doing this podcast. And that's what I loved about it, because there's like, you're going to be interviewing so many people that I'm so interested to know about how they did it and why.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't think that they're the ones that people would want to know, maybe, you know, like you feel like, what do you mean someone wants to know how I came up? But it's true. And I think it's just nice to show these different avenues, and that there's so many ways of getting into it, that there's no right or wrong, and you just follow what you want to do.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for talking with me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Just being able to chat, but I think, you've got a lot of insight and a lot of different paths in your career that, you know, led you to where you were. And I think that it's really amazing that you're going into this management role. I think you're going to be great at it. And love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. I will see you on the flip side. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Successful Stylist Unfoiled. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube to get all the notifications of our weekly episodes.